This is for those who think that they're going to cut the interest rates and therefore the property is going to continue to go up. So watch this and watch it till the end.
3 rate cuts this year and 4 more next year. What did inflation do? 1 cut. I mean, it really depends. None, no cuts. What did inflation do? 2 cuts. This is really hard. That's hawkish. Definitely hawkish. I mean, it really does depend. I'm sticking with 2 cuts. Hey, is it weird that we're publicly forecasting interest rates while working for a bank that sets mortgage rates? 3 cuts this year, 3 cuts. No, we're back to 3 cuts. But wouldn't we benefit if people think there's going to be lower rates? Like people would borrow more? Don't worry about it. Okay. 3 cuts.
There were only 2 things on the table. Hold, accepting that we might have to hold for some time, or raise. The board decided to leave the cash rate unchanged. Make no mistake, inflation is still too high. A rate cut is not on the agenda in the near term, given what we know. Continued pressure will help to keep demand coming back into line with supply. Now, what I mean by that, the amount of goods and services that households and businesses and government want to buy and need, that's more than the amount that the economy can sustainably provide. And when demand's above supply, that's inflation. Prices go up. So demand has been above supply for some time now. In the immediate post-pandemic period, we had difficulties on the supply side. And this overlapped with a period when people were demanding a lot of goods. These things conspired and resulted in higher goods price inflation around the world. And we're using the tool we have, monetary policy, to operate on the demand side and get the inflation rate back into the target band of between 2 and 3%. If it does appear that inflation is not tracking the way we are forecasting, they will, if needed, increase interest rates.
A double whammy in the cost of living crisis tonight. Australians should brace for both their home and car insurance premiums to rise sharply. And it's likely to make inflation worse.
According to analytics firm Finity, we're looking at a 12% jump in our home and car insurance before the year's out. Unfortunately, as long as premiums keep going up, so does inflation, making an interest rate cut that much less likely. Unfortunately, as long as premiums keep going up, so does inflation, making an interest rate cut that much less likely. The result, more Australians in housing stress.
What's the mortgage?
1.2 mil.
What's the interest rate?
About 6.1.
Payments going to be about 7.5 grand if they're based in the Central Coast.
Yeah, Blue Bay's where the property is. Renting out for $1,000 a week. So they bought it with the intent to be an owner-occ. Couple with 1 kid at the moment.
What about income?
110k and 120k. The rental income's $1,000 a week.
They're sharing 52 a year in gross rental income. All right. How long have they had the property?
Had the property for 2 years, so there's 28 years left.
There's 27 years and 9 months remaining on the term. Pretty accurate,
Pretty accurate, yeah.
So they're going to pay on the $1.2 million debt $2,490,000 to the bank. The interest alone on top of the 1.2 is $1,282,662.
Hey, what's the average new mortgage size? 640 grand. Oh, what kind of interest are they paying on that? About 6.4%. And can people afford that? In theory, no. But in practice, ask the banks. Which one? Try Australia's biggest bank. What the fuck? When did it become worth $250 billion? Probably about the same time you were asking whether people could afford huge mortgages with high interest rates. Oh, right.
In Australia, we have a massive problem, and I'm going to give you an example. In 2017, 2018, we built a development. It was 51 units, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms in Southport. My contract build price was $275,000 a unit. Build price, finished product, here's your keys. That same building today, on average, is $800,000. Build price. You're talking within 6 years, 2.5 times.
This is the real inflation.
Right. This is the real inflation. The issue is we don't have the labor.
And materials have gone up.
Materials have gone up, but labor has gone up more. It's a supply and demand problem in the labor sector. And what's happening is you got Dubai as an example. I just pulled up some numbers. They've launched 90,000 homes in 2024. Well, we got to remember, Dubai's population is about 3.5 million. Australia's 25 million, and we're not even putting out 80,000 homes a year across the entire country. How does Dubai build that amount? How can they build
Cheap
the
labor.
purge, right? They import cheap labor. That is the reason why they can build, and you can go and buy 1-bedroom units there and 2-bedroom units there for 250 grand Aussie, 300 grand, 400 grand Aussie. You will never see that ever again here, because the trades are the new lawyers. The trades are the new doctors. They're getting paid big money and they're heavily protected. And I'm not against that. Or I'm not saying that we have to import cheap labor. But the reality is, if that's what they're going to get paid and that's what things cost, property prices will be affected by that. Like now, that 275 unit that we built, we were selling them for 500 grand.
It's the hardest it's ever been for a 30-year-old in Australia, in Australia's history. It is true 30-year-olds are going to be less well off than their parents are. That's a fact. It's a fact that when I was 30, the house cost me 3 times my salary. Now, 8 times plus for a 30-year-old is what it's going to cost you to get into the housing market. It's true that HEX has doubled in the last 15 years, right? Doubled from a $15,000 bill to a $30,000 bill. It's true that a baby boomer paid half the tax that a 30-year-old pays now when they were 30 years of age. So the reality is it is extremely difficult to be a 30-year-old in Australia right now.
Folks, Blackstone is now selling homes on the U.S. housing market. Take a look at this listing here in Florida. It was purchased in July 2022 by Home Partners of America, which is a real estate fund owned by Blackstone. They bought it for $380,000 back then. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house, 1,500 square feet. And now Blackstone is selling, and they are selling at a loss. They listed the property earlier this year for over $400,000, and now they've cut the price to $370,000, $10,000 less than what they bought it for 2 years ago. The way that I know this property is owned by Blackstone is because I looked it up on PropWire, and you can see the owner is SFR Acquisitions 3 with an address that ties to Home Partners of America. Now you gotta ask, why is Blackstone selling houses in Florida right now? What do they know? What do they see coming in the housing market here?